Welcome to Open House. Today, I'm joined by Lydia Hallay to talk about persona marketing, how to treat every home like a story worth telling, from building anticipation to inviting your audience into the experience. Lydia's going to share with us how she brings heart, vision, and creativity to every listing. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I love following you on Instagram. First, share what your handle is on Instagram for folks to be able to look this up while they're looking or listening to this.
It's Lydia Hallay. It's my first and last name, very original.
Yeah, but that makes sense. Thank you. It's the worst when you know someone's name and then they're going by some other name and you're like, oh, what is that? I always tell agents, go with your name. Like, people know your name.
I mean, it's kind of a hard name for some folks, so I feel like I have to remind them what it is.
Lydia Hallay.
That's right, yeah.
Yes. All right. So so what I love following you on Instagram is that each house has a name, it's got a personality. I mean, you really do this persona marketing. Explain your approach, and for folks who don't follow you, what is it that you're trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm trying to do is just tell a story for folks about this house that I've brought to market and help them envision their own lives there, because when they start doing that, they start getting attached.
And I literally do. Sometimes I watch and she's talking to me. This home is so for me. Little mint chip cutie. And I'm like, I want to be a mint chip cutie.
Yeah.
So, is that what you're trying to do? Is get some sort of visceral connection, something that connects deeper than just, obviously 3 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Yeah, totally. I think, you mentioned the mint chip. That was the Montevilla mint chip. That it was minty green outside, and it was a sweet scoop. That we wanted people to feel a sense of kind of urgency around, like a scoop of ice cream. It melts, so you got to get to it fast. I think part of what I like to do in telling that story for folks is not just helping them envision their own life there and what kind of activities they might be doing in the space, but also, to bring a sense of life into a listing that, often they're unoccupied, that no one's actually living there when we're showing the house or listing the house. But we want to create a sense of life in the space. And that's through, how we talk about the house. It's how we stage the house and show the house. It's also, just the experience that people have walking into a space. One of the things I like to do is make a playlist for every house that I list, mostly because I just like making playlists. I was, as a, product of the 90s and 2000s, when you could actually make a playlist
Heck yeah.
by priming your CD player. I think for me, what I like to do is just kind of have an excuse to do things that I already like doing when I'm marketing a property. So making floral arrangements. I love playing with flowers. And so I like to make a fresh bouquet for every house that I list, or a playlist or something like that.
And where does the inspiration come from? Because it's really, it's almost like you're taking kind of an art project to show. And I'm wondering, do you start with do you meet the owners and kind of market to them because they're the folks who fell in love originally? Or do you have that conversation with your client? Who are we looking for?
I think talking with the seller first is super important, to ask them what they love about a space. Most likely the things they love and invested in that space are things that the future owner will also love and appreciate. And so, whether that's the garden, right, that someone spent a lot of time planting with care and intention, or, updates that they've made to systems, making sure that we're helping future buyers understand the love and care that's been put into a space to give them a sense of comfort, too, with making that big purchase, because we want them to feel confident going into the offer and the offer process, and also once they're under contract. We want to instill a sense of confidence in potential buyers that this is a great house and there's been a lot of attention paid, not just bringing it to market, but in advance of that by the person who was here before.
I really hadn't thought about this until we're here in this conversation, but I know that people often tell stories as a way to understand things, like understand our place in life. We have myths and narrative and all these stories. And I think what you do for me, if I put myself in that and, looking at your Montevilla mint chip, is it's a story I want to be a part of. And then I can begin to take the first steps into telling my own story or adding my own chapters to it.
Yeah.
Like it's always easier to edit something than start fresh, right? It's like, oh, you have this vision for this life here, and I want to be a part of that vision.
Yeah, I think every house has a story, and part of my job as a listing agent is to help tell that story in a way that resonates for people. And that's a story that we tell visually, right, with how we're staging and preparing a home. It's a story that we can tell with music, right? If we have a playlist that we've created that kind of captures the vibe and the energy, making sure that playlist is running when folks are here for the open house. It's also, I think, about the sensory experience of like walking into a space and making sure that there's, it smells nice in there and fresh, and that details have been paid attention to, that maybe, you walk into another space and you're sort of like, man, they didn't even like wipe down the baseboards. What the fuck?
Yeah. You're inviting people in to experience a little bit more living.
Yeah, definitely. And I like to do that in how I'm marketing a house too. I like to, when I make like a marketing video for a home, I like to walk through the space and show, like how it can be used, like lounging on the couch, arranging flowers in the kitchen, drinking coffee on the front porch.
Yeah.
And really just help folks, again, see the life in the space and see themselves there in a future chapter.
And in these videos, you're representing the seller. So I'm going to guess your seller feels seen and that you understand the value, not just of the home, but the quality and beauty of the life that they've lived in it. I would imagine you get some feedback around like, oh, I feel like you really get it. I feel like you see the value in our home.
Yeah. I think every time I'm approaching the marketing for a property, I like to first start by talking to the seller and like getting a sense of, like, did you have a nickname for this house even? Because some people do. I've listed a house that we called the Cocoa Bungalow. And I named that house Cocoa Bungalow, one, because it's like kind of a chocolatey brown outside, so it's pretty obvious. But also because the seller was a baker, and she made, every time I went to her house, she made me leave with like delicious treats. And so Cocoa Bungalow felt like the right fit because that's who the seller was, is someone who was like sweet and always had something baking and ready to hand to you before you left. And I think that home, we really wanted to capture the sort of invitation that space was for folks, and the warmth that you felt when you left that home, feeling really welcome and invited into community. I think that the marketing I do for a property is just as much for the buyers as it is for the sellers that I work with. It's a way for them to also feel really a sense of pride in what they're leaving behind for someone next, or whoever's there next. And, I think that there's something powerful about seeing your space in its best possible light. And if I'm doing my job right, like, you don't actually want to sell it at the end of our work together. You're kind of like bummed.
Yeah.
You're like happy you found the right caretaker. And that's also it too, is like matchmaking and helping cultivate a vibe and an invitation to the next buyer that I know that the seller is going to be really stoked to hand keys, to that next person at the end of this process.
So I'm guessing that feeds into your reputation as being a really collaborative broker, because the experience on both sides, if you're thinking about matching the buyer and sellers, matchmaking,
Yeah.
it's like they're the right buyer. This is this is a seller who gets to hand something they love off,
Yeah.
and I imagine negotiations go a little smoother. People are understanding each other, and you're also probably getting amazing results for your sellers.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I mean, as a listing agent, I'm not just looking at offer terms with my sellers. I'm also looking at the quality of the representation that potential buyer has on the other side, because that's going to really make a difference in what our experience is through the transaction. And
Mhm.
if we can hold it together, because increasingly, we're seeing it's tough to hold transactions together. And so making sure that there's great communication, flowing between both co-ops, helping set expectations for sellers and for buyers about what's reasonable to expect in this process, and helping to remind folks of what a good outcome could look like, and keep people focused on moving forward together in a way that everyone feels like a winner at the end.
So much of this is about tempo and pace. It's like having a clear vision and then keeping the energy flowing throughout. And I would love for you just to break down a little bit for agents who are interested in doing more persona marketing. Is like, what is it specifically that you do that you could share to build anticipation? And is there a step by step you can walk us through? I think you called it the tickle and tease. I love that.
Yeah, the good old tickle and tease.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the work we do as realtors is unseen labor, unseen to our clients, as well as other people around us who just don't really know what we do. And so when I'm preparing a home to list, I really like to pull the curtain back on what the labor is that goes into that process. I think it helps my seller clients understand the value that I bring, and also really tickles and teases, or whets the
Mhm.
appetite for potential buyers out there, or buyers agents, right, who are scanning the horizon for a good match for their buyers that are out hunting. And so, I like to use my Instagram stories to sort of show people the work that I'm doing to bring a home to market. A good example is a home I called the Lucky Charmer. It was honestly a total fixer when I first met with the seller client in, it was early part of the year. And we worked together for 5 months to come up with a plan to bring that home to market, and, to proactively address things that needed to be addressed prior to listing it. So we put a new roof on, new, paint inside and out, rebuilt a deck, new flooring, minor fix-its, a new furnace, all sorts of things to really help that property shine, and ultimately help the seller extract, you know, like what she needed to for the next chapter in her life, and set her up to start a fresh journey after a chapter that had felt maybe hard.
Yeah.
And so when I was working on that project over several months, I was posting stories about the roofers there putting the new roof on, or I would I would go to the flooring shop and I would show the different types of LVP that I was deciding between, or the different paint colors that we were choosing between, or when I was bringing Coco Bungalow to market, I was had a video of me sweeping a dead rat out of the chimney. It's these are the fancy things we do in our
Yeah.
jobs.
And so really just like giving those little sneak peeks into the work, into the care that's being taken care of before you put something on the market is a great way to build anticipation. And how do you take the audience along? What are the kind of things folks may be doing that you think they may be doing that they're inadvertently losing their audience? Have you found, are there ways to quickly lose the audience? How do we take them along?
I think a tendency maybe I see sometimes for realtors to kind of beg for business, overtly beg for business online. And I don't know that I don't know that that's helpful to be so obvious about it. I think what's more helpful is to show your work and to show how you show up for your clients and in your community, to just be authentically yourself. I think another thing is just like no one wants to hear your dirty laundry or like, your gripes about how hard some of the days are.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to sort of share how challenging our work is at times without like shitting on our work,
Totally.
and I think maybe that's something that is important to think about in terms of how you show up on social media.
And I'm just thinking about all the service people I have to work with, and in a month, they're attorneys, accountants, and I certainly would be repelled by an accountant that's like, it's going to be really tough. And man, I'm just like so overworked and tired and like, look what I had to do, because I'm like, wait, I'm overwhelmed with my tax. I don't need to deal with your overwhelm on my taxes, right? Like I'm
hiring you to be overwhelmed.
Right. Like I want someone to bring levity and joy and, help this process move along. And with the kind of behavior you're talking about just stops momentum. It makes you feel like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I feel those ways sometimes. Sometimes I'm just like, man, today was so fucking hard,
Yeah.
And I'm not like not sharing that on my social media or whatever, like there's like hard stuff that we navigate in this work. But I also just try to, share the joy of this process and this experience doing this work with people. It's a fun job. I'm so stoked that I get to do this work every day and have a good time. And it's really hard, but it's also deeply meaningful work. And just showing people, I think, how the average day looks is it appeals to a sense of like voyeurism that we all have, right? Like we always want to see like what's someone else's life like what are they doing all day?
Yeah.
And so that's just a little bit of what I try to do. I'm not super planful on my social media, honestly. I don't have like a formula or anything like that. I literally just like take people along for what is already happening in my day to day. And also try to share a little bit about who I am. And hopefully that carries through to people and how I show up and, advocating for them.
Well, I think my takeaways from this conversation, if I want to start more persona marketing, is authenticity.
Yeah.
And just really come from a true place. The second is bring the things you love. Like bring your sense of humor, bring your creativity, bring some personality, both to your business and your marketing, but also to the houses, to the clients that you represent. Like everybody's going to feel a little bit more alive and rejuvenated and attracted to taking a look what's going on and just looking at your results. I mean, anyone can look and like just see how viral a lot of these videos go. Like people are tuning in, they love it, they're sharing it. It's fun. I really appreciate you framing this in this way, this persona marketing. And is there any last words you'd want to share or tips for agents? Like if you could go in and make everyone's marketing just a little bit more fun and engaging, what are some things that you would sprinkle on them?
I think just show up in a way that feels real to you. Like I incorporate things I like doing because I want to make this job fun, basically. Like I'm not a baker. I'm not going to bring baked goods to my open house, but I'll bring a banging playlist and, the flowers will be on point. The front yard's going to look awesome because I am a gardener and I care about that stuff. If that's not your magic, like don't force it, and I think that's the takeaway I would suggest for folks is just, this is such an awesome job that we get to make every day. Every day is different and we get to really choose how we show up as realtors in our communities and in our day-to-day. And I would just encourage folks to find excuses to do the things you already love doing in your day-to-day work. And it will make it so much more fun and it will carry through in how people experience you as a realtor, as a person in their community, and really just doing things that feel joyful. And that will convey to people a sense of authenticity that I think is really like wanted in our society right now, especially when we're, so many things are like AI generated and feel just really like fake and contrived. I think all of us are craving something that feels real and deeply connected and playful and not perfect. And that is what is going to help you stand apart, especially now when people scroll through and they just see things that are like AI generated all the time. It's like showing up as your weird, authentic, like freaky self is going to be what draws people to you.
Stay human.
Stay human.
I love it. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.